Today we are going to discuss about some important topics of electrostatics. First one is torque on an electric dipole placed in an electric field. After that, electric flux. After that, Gauss theorem. After that, some properties of Gauss theorem. And the last one is applications of Gauss theorem. Now we derive the expression of torque on an electric dipole. Consider an electric dipole of charges plus q and minus q and length 2L are placed in an electric field. Suppose the dipole makes an angle theta with the field. Due to this electric field E, the charge plus q and minus q experience equal amount of force in opposite directions. The direction of forces on plus q charge and minus q charge are shown in the figure. Since the force on plus q charge and minus q charge are in opposite directions and the dipole makes an angle theta with the electric field, so the dipole tends to rotate along the direction of electric field. So we can say that the dipole experience a torque. Now torque is equal to either force of the couple and the perpendicular distance between the forces. Here the perpendicular distance is 2L sin theta and the magnitude of force is QE. Therefore, torque tau is equal to 2L sin theta into QE. Therefore, tau is equal to Q into 2L into E sin theta, which is equal to PE sin theta, where P is the dipole moment of the dipole and Q into 2L is equal to P. Since torque is a vector quantity, so we can write this equation as P cross E. Here the direction of this dipole is perpendicular into the plane of paper. We have torque tau is equal to PE sin theta, where P is the dipole moment of the dipole and E is the electric field and theta is the angle between electric field and the direction of dipole moment. In the expression of torque experienced by the dipole, here the dipole moment P and the electric field E are constant. So the variable is only theta. Therefore, the torque experienced by this dipole is different for different values of theta. Now, when the torque is minimum? Torque is minimum when sin theta is equal to 0. That is, theta is equal to 0 degree. That is, torque tau is equal to 0. And when the torque is maximum? The torque is maximum when sin theta is equal to 1, because the maximum value of sin theta is equal to 1. Therefore, torque tau is equal to P into E. Therefore, the torque on a dipole is maximum when the dipole is perpendicular to the electric field. And the torque on a dipole is minimum when the dipole is parallel to the electric field. That is, the angle between the dipole moment and the electric field is 0 degree. Now we will discuss about electric flux elaborately. Suppose water is flowing through a pipe of cross section A. Now we see the effect of orientation of the cross section to the flow of water. If the cross section is inclined, then you can clearly see in figure 2 that the amount of flow of water per second is less than the figure 1. If we draw the projection on inclined cross section, then we get the ultimate region through which the water flows per second. If the cross section is on the horizontal plane, then no water will flow through this cross section. From the above situations, that is, from the orientation of the cross section, we can easily say that the flow of water depends on the orientation of the cross section. So we can say that the area is a vector quantity. If the speed of water through the pipe is V and the cross sectional area is A, then the amount of water will flow through the cross section per unit time is equal to V into A. V is the distance covered by the water per unit time, that is speed of the water. Similarly, as like water flow, we define an analogous quantity which is called electric flux, which is the number of electric field lines passing through an area perpendicularly. We know the electric field line density is directly proportional to electric field strength. Therefore, number of field lines divided by area is proportional to electric field strength. So we can say that number of field lines is nearly equal to electric field into area. The number of field lines means flux. Therefore, flux is equal to area into electric field. Now we consider the orientation of cross-sectional area. Suppose the cross-section is inclined in such a way that it makes an angle theta with the projection of it. Therefore, area of the projection is s cos theta. In this case, the expression of flux phi is equal to E into s cos theta. We know A dot V vector is equal to AB cos theta. Therefore, flux phi is equal to E dot S, where theta is the angle between the unit vector of area of cross section and the electric field. We have flux phi is equal to Es cos theta, where E is the electric field and S is the area of cross section. Here, the electric field and the area of cross section is constant. So, the amount of flux is only depends on the value of theta. Therefore, the value of flux is maximum when cos theta is equal to 1, that is, theta is equal to 0 degree. Therefore, flux phi is equal to E into S. Here, theta is the angle between the unit vector of the cross-sectional area and the electric field E. So, we can say that the electric flux is maximum when the cross-sectional area is perpendicular to the electric field. Now, the total flux passing out through the cross-sectional area is minimum when cos theta is equal to 0, that is, theta is equal to 90 degree. Therefore, flux phi is equal to 0. So clearly we can say that when the area of cross section is parallel to the electric field, or the unit vector of the area of cross section is perpendicular to the electric field, then the total flux through the cross section is 0. Now we are going to discuss about the continuous distribution of charges. At first, the line charge density. Suppose a charge Q is uniformly distributed over a wire of length L. Therefore, the amount of charge per unit length of the wire, which we called line charge density lambda, is equal to Q by L. Now, the surface charge density. Suppose a charge Q is uniformly distributed over a hollow sphere of radius r. Therefore, amount of charge per unit surface area is equal to total charge divided by the area of the sphere, which we called surface charge density. Therefore, for the sphere, the surface charge density sigma is equal to Q by 4 pi r square. Now, the volume charge density. Consider a charge Q is uniformly distributed over a solid sphere of radius r. Here, the charge is uniformly distributed all over the sphere. Therefore, the amount of charge per unit volume of the solid sphere is equal to total amount of charge divided by its volume. That is, volume charge density ρ is equal to Q by V. For this solid sphere, the volume charge density ρ is equal to Q by 4 by 3 pi r cube. Now we are going to discuss about Gauss law of electrostatics. Suppose a charge plus Q is placed at point O. Now we draw a sphere of radius r such that the charge plus Q is at the center of this sphere, and this surface is called Gaussian surface. Now the statement of Gauss law. According to this law, the total flux passing through any closed surface is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times the total charge enclosed by the surface. Mathematically, flux phi is equal to Q by epsilon naught, where Q is the total charge enclosed by the surface and epsilon naught is the permittivity of the free space. Now we are going to discuss about the proof of Gauss law of electrostatics. Consider a charge Q is placed at the center of a sphere of radius r. Therefore, electric field at a distance r from this charge is equal to E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by r square. Now we consider an elementary area on the surface such as it tends to 0, so that total flux through this area phi is equal to double integration or surface integration E dot ds. Here theta is equal to 0 degree because we know that radius always makes an angle 90 degree with the surface or tangent to the surface. Therefore, flux phi is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by r square into 4 pi r square. Therefore, flux is equal to Q by epsilon naught. This is the mathematical expression of Gauss law of electrostatics. Hence, proved. So, flux phi is equal to total charge divided by epsilon naught, which is the mathematical expression of Gauss law, and hence proved. Now we are going to discuss about the properties of Gauss theorem. At first, Gauss law is true for any type of closed surfaces. It does not depend on the shape or size of the surface. Electric field lines always perpendicular to the Gaussian surface. The Gaussian surface is an arbitrary surface which is used to calculate the electric field easily. Now we see some applications of Gauss's law. Now we will derive the expression of electric field due to a sheet of surface charge density sigma. Here the electric field lines are passing only through the cross sections which are perpendicular to the electric field. Now we consider a cylindrical Gaussian surface such that its area of cross section is equal to pi r square or capital A. Now the total flux phi is equal to phi 1 plus phi 2, where phi 1 and phi 2 are the fluxes passing out through the cross section which are perpendicular to the sheet. Here the value of phi 1 is equal to Ea cos 0 degree and the value of phi 2 is same, which is Ea cos 0 degree. Therefore total flux phi is equal to 2 into Ea. Now according to Gauss law, the total flux phi is equal to total charge by epsilon naught, that is q by epsilon naught is equal to 2 into Ea. Now total charge is equal to surface charge density into area of cross section. Therefore sigma A by epsilon naught is equal to 2 into Ea. Therefore electric field E is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon naught. This is the expression of electric field due to a long thin sheet of surface charge density sigma. Now we are going to derive the expression of electric field due to a long straight current carrying conductor of line charge density lambda. Consider a cylindrical Gaussian surface around the charged infinitely long wire. Three surfaces of the Gaussian surface are S1, S2 and S3. Here the field lines are passing only through the surface S1 because the surface S1 is perpendicular to the field lines. But the surfaces S2 and S3 are parallel to the field lines. So no electric field lines are passing through these surfaces. Consider an elementary surface ds1 on S1. So the flux passing through the surface ds1 is equal to E dot ds1. Therefore total flux passing out through the surface S1 is equal to surface integration E dot ds1, which is equal to surface integration E ds cos 0 degree, which gives the surface integration E ds1. Now, according to Gauss theorem, flux phi is equal to total charge by epsilon naught. Here, the total charge Q is equal to surface charge density into length of the cylinder. Now, from equation 1 and 2, we can write surface integration E ds is equal to Q by epsilon naught. Here, E is constant. So, surface integration ds is equal to 2 pi r into L. That is 2 pi r is the perimeter and L is the length of the cylinder. Therefore, electric field E is equal to Q by 2 pi r L into epsilon naught. Now, Q by L is the line charge density of the wire. Therefore, we get E is equal to, that is electric field is equal to lambda by 2 pi r into epsilon naught. Now we are going to derive the expression of electric field due to a uniformly charged spherical shell at different positions. At first we consider the case that the observation point is at outside the shell. Consider a hollow spherical shell of radius r. Here the charge Q is uniformly distributed all over the surface. Now we have to find electric field at point P, which is at a distance r from the center of the sphere. Now we draw a sphere of radius small r. The sphere is known as Gaussian sphere or Gaussian surface. Here the total charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface is Q. Therefore, from Gauss law, we can write total flux phi is equal to integration of E dot ds is equal to total charge by epsilon naught. Here, integration over the elementary surface gives 4 pi r square. Therefore, flux phi is equal to E into 4 pi r square, which is equal to Q by epsilon naught. Therefore, electric field E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q by r square. Therefore, electric field at a point outside the shell is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by r square. Now we consider the case that the observation point is on the surface of the uniformly charged shell. Here The uniformly charged sphere and the Gaussian sphere is same. Therefore, according to Gauss theorem, the total flux phi is equal to integration E dot ds is equal to q by epsilon naught. Here, the integration of ds is equal to 4 pi into capital R square. Therefore, in this case, we get the electric field E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by capital R square. Therefore, we can say that the electric field on the surface of a uniformly charged spherical shell is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by capital R square. Now we consider the case that the observation point lies inside the uniformly charged spherical shell. Here, the charge inside the uniformly charged spherical shell is 0. So, when we apply Gauss theorem, then phi is equal to net charge divided by epsilon naught. Here, the net charge is 0. That's why electric field inside the spherical shell is 0.